Good morning, Jan.
Good morning, Bruce.
Yeah, it's Friday, and we're here for our regular Friday call.
hmm
And today we wanted to talk about the forum that you've put together, a place of discussion about the Oera Linda, about the translation of it, the religion of it, perhaps the archaeology of it. There's several different topics, and uh, we wanted to talk about that, and we got an email from someone with several critiques and suggestions about translation things,
hmm
and that's exactly what the forum is for. So we wanted to introduce the forum to make sure that people know where they can go to make their opinions known and
Yeah,
discuss it with other people. And then we wanted to talk about some of the language, some helping verbs in the Frayas language. And you're going to introduce, I believe, a few pages of the new edition that's coming out
yeah.
that's quite a bit different than the older versions.
Yes. So the forum was designed by one of the great volunteers. It has not been promoted much yet. It still needs some improvement in how it looks and functionality, perhaps. But there are already some great threads, and I have not had time to reply myself to all of it. But this was really needed because people send me questions or suggestions, and I cannot answer it all. So it's much nicer when people can connect and discuss things with other people who are interested.
Right. Yeah, you can't reply to every email. People have been sending you, for example, we have 2 or 3 pages here of suggestions or questions, and at least you were able to find that email, but you do get a lot of email. So this makes it possible to put the questions
Yeah.
out there and get some answers maybe before you or I have a chance to respond.
Yes, and this particular email it was much appreciated. It's by another volunteer who has done great things. But it's a good example, I think, for us now to first of all reply to some of it, and then also to suggest that things like that can be ideally also discussed in the forum to see if there's more people who have the same ideas for improvement or the same doubts about. Um,
Certain bits of
yeah.
language.
hmm
Yeah, yeah. Especially for example, I mean, so the paper that we were sent, or the list of critiques that we were sent, lists everything by chapter,
hmm
and I thought I would just address one of the chapters, which was 13G. And the I don't know if you have that pulled up somewhere.
Yeah.
So here's the email that we got, and 13G Tale and Answers is what we called it. Um, do you, should I read out the question there that he has?
Yes, I have it open here also, and I'll open 13G in the wiki.
Okay, while you're doing that, I'll read out the question. So he
Yeah.
says, for example, why change speech to tale? So the original Frayas title of this section is, if you pull it up there, is Tall and Antwoord, or something like that. Um, the
Oh yeah.
that's English.
And then 103, line 26. Ja, taal en antwoorden ora famna toen voorbeeld. Ja.
So Tal and Antwoord oder Femna tun Verbild.
Ja.
So the question here is Tal. We translate it as tale in this in the newest version,
Mhm.
and before it had been translated as speech, I believe. The modern Dutch word for
Ja.
language is taal. But there's an obvious cognate with the word tale as well. He says, because it is a cognate of tale and therefore better somehow, why change it? And it's a decent question. And my answer to it is that so no one gave a speech, right? It's when you read the section, what you end up is that a man comes in, an unsociable, stingy man came with a tale of woe to
Mm-hmm.
tröst. So a tale of woe in English is basically it's idiomatic to mean when somebody comes in with in American English, you would say a sob story. So a
Yeah.
story that's supposed to evoke, some sympathy for the person telling the tale.
Mm-hmm.
And the person that he came to talk to was Trost, and who is Trost exactly?
Trust made at Stavia. She was made at Stavia.
Made at the Burg Stavia.
Yeah.
So she was the Burg mother, the mother at Stavia.
Or one of the maidens. Doesn't say.
It just says from.
Yeah.
Okay. I believe anyway, at least that the modern word. It's there. It is TRA with an accent ST. I pronounce it trost. And it's also translated, I believe, by Sandbach as toast.
Yeah. The obvious cognate in modern Dutch is troost, which means comfort. How do you say that? To comfort someone.
Yeah, so troost means to comfort someone or comfort.
Yeah. But in the original language, it's spelled with a with an accent up.
Which we said was pronounced all. Right?
Well, I say traas. Traas, the long A. I think, Alda is an e. So we don't know. It's not.
Yeah, we don't know exactly.
For example, fam
and an aw.
For example, fam, a cognate is fame, but also French femme. Yeah. And in Dutch, we say femme, so with a long a.
Yeah.
But baat has become boat. So sometimes it has become a long o, and sometimes it has become a long a.
Yeah. It's kind of somewhere in between. Mm-hmm. But the word in German, for example, we've got this idea of a false toast or a false comfort.
Oh, and
that's why I like this section here, because basically Trost refuses to give false troost. So he comes in with his tale of woe and is expecting someone to kind of, oh, you poor dear. And Trost really lets him have it, right? She says, stop your complaining, basically. And so two reasons. Because I translated his sob story as a tale of woe, I thought that that it made sense to have tale in the title, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, tall can be translated as a language, but also as a tale.
Yeah. And
it wouldn't make any sense to say language and answers or speech and answers. That doesn't say anything to anybody. But the idea is that this man came in and told his tale, and he got answers. They weren't the answers he was expecting. Yeah. But so it's a bit of a vague title, either any way you want to translate it. But I think anybody who reads this title and then reads the section will understand, at least they see tale twice in the first sentence, and they'll understand someone told a tale and he got his answers. And this is supposed to be an example to the other maids, how they're to deal with people who come in with their tale of woe, and explain to them that it's up to them to, pull themselves up by their bootstraps.
Another comparable tale, which will have had the same function, was that of the three thieves.
Right.
Which at Justice, here. That's a little tale, and it doesn't have to be true, but it's a nice example when three thieves stolen grain or corn. Well, people can read it themselves, but it's a similar tale.
Right. Yeah, that's a very similar tale. That's right. someone comes and steals from three different people, right? And the first one goes and makes the thief give it back, or what does the first one do?
He's taken to court.
Oh, it took them to court, right?
Yeah. And the second,
he's the one that took the grain back and let him go in peace.
In peace. And the third one went to his home and he saw that there was hunger, and he even brought some more grain to.
Brought him some more food. Yeah. So that's a great story, and one of my favorite parts of the book. But so that's just an answer to this to the title of the section of 13G, why it's tale and answer and not speech and answers. Mm-hmm. It wouldn't have made any sense any other way. I explained Tale of Woe, which the person with the critique had never heard before. But it's an idiomatic expression in English, and if you go to the forum and ask something like that, you're bound to get an answer from someone explaining that is just an idiom in English.
Yeah. Or when many people agree with such a change or a suggestion,
then we might have to think things through again. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then the next critique in this section kind of speaks to a point that I think is also important, that the original translation that you did was kind of in a more modern English. Would you agree?
Yeah, I had translated it myself as good as I could without help. Well, and then there were a few proofreaders who were not professional translators like you, but who were native English, who helped me improve some of the things.
Yeah.
That's how the first two editions, and in the third we already had made some improvements together, and in the fourth we went through all the text.
Right.
And now the fifth that we are planning now, there are even more edits by us.
Yes, we've got a lot more to do. Mm-hmm. But so one of the things we did then between the second and the fourth edition is to change some of the language to a bit of a more archaic English way of speaking.
Yeah, where it was fitting, especially.
Where it was fitting. Yeah, so something like, how the King James Bible kind of keeps, is written in an older mode. Of course, it was written long ago, but we decided that it made sense also because it fits more closely with the Frayas in some cases to help people understand it.
Yeah.
That if we used an older mode of English, some of the word order that wouldn't be used in modern English, because none of the stuff in this book would be used in modern English. It's an old book, it's an old language, and it's fitting, I believe. So there's one section in this 13G where it says that Freya couldn't ask anyone for help, right?
Yeah.
I don't know exactly what it says in the original language.
Let me see.
Right off the top of my head.
Here in the beginning, yeah.
Yeah.
104. Niemand, ja. Der wäre niemand, der ja helpt Magdalena.
Okay, der wäre niemand, der ja helpt
niemand macht you Freya. So no one could she ask, and there was no one that could help, provide help.
Right. Yeah. So it's about the first part there. Niemand macht hier Freya, and I translated it exactly as it says there. No one, niemand, macht hier Freya. No one could she ask.
Yeah.
And it's obviously not the way you would speak to someone in a text or on the street corner when you are talking about modern things. But it's absolutely a grammatically correct sentence in English. It's a slightly older mode, and it matches exactly the Frayas. And for me, and I believe for you, as we've discussed it, that a big part of the translation is to help people understand the original language. And having the same word order adds a bit to the style of the English, but also helps people match it directly to the original language.
Yeah, if it's correct English and it sounds archaic, then I like it. I cannot judge these things because I didn't grow up with English, or nor did I study it that way. But if you say, I trust your judgment. In the beginning, I was very reluctant. When we first started, I wasn't as willing to give up some of the sentences as they were.
Yes, I remember.
But discussing it, and sometimes you convinced me, and sometimes after a night of sleep, I saw that you were right. So by doing that, I gradually trusted your judgment more, and I really liked your suggestions.
And I obviously I can make mistakes, but one of the things that I've done, for example, with the list that was sent, and I remember some of the things, the blush of dawn, where we talked about Freya being white as the blush of dawn, of snow in the dawn.
Oh yeah.
That was something that we discussed because you definitely wanted to have the idea of red, because of the Freya's word is morgenrød. But that's a word that comes up later as well with the red of morning, is not very idiomatic. So we came up with the blush of dawn. And
I really like it, yeah.
Yeah, and in the list here, there's some critique about it. It says no one speaks that way. Well, yes, no one speaks that way, but it's somewhat, it's supposed to be poetic.
Well, a good example is also the hark. Hearken, my friends.
Hark, yeah.
There's a song, Hark the Angels Singing, a Christmas song, I think.
Hark the heralds, yeah.
Yeah. So people do, even if they don't speak like that. And you said that in some parts of England they actually still say hark.
Right. There's just a saying. If someone says something hypocritical or something, you could say hark who's talking.
Oh, yeah.
So hark is definitely a word that people understand. And then the blush of dawn thing is somewhat poetic, but I remember I brought this one up because I remember actually Googling it, going online, putting it in quotes and seeing if anybody had ever, written this before. And I got several hits for it. So, obviously we weren't the first ones to come up with this, but it fits quite well. Like you said, it's one of your favorite solutions that we came up with. And her eyes surpassed that of the rainbow was another point of discussion that was brought up in these texts. And for me, that's a precise translation of the Freias, but it's something that can be discussed in the forum, and that is the point of this conversation, is that if you that the blauw hier, maybe you want to read it.
Dat blauw jarar ook noem unedited der regenbogen of.
Yeah, unedited der regenbogen of. So was more than, right? It won it over, so to speak. And so we came up with surpassed. The old translation of yours, and perhaps even of Sandbach, was something with beautiful, that the blue of her eyes was more beautiful than that of the rainbow.
Vied with the rainbow. The blue of her eyes vied with the rainbow.
Vied with the rainbow.
That's
which
what Sandbach had.
Right, but that's also a false translation, because it doesn't say it vied with the. It says it says it beat the rain. Right, so vied with the rainbow would mean that it's a close call.
Translating is also about interpreting, eh?
It's about interpreting, but that one it's so specific that you can't possibly say that it vied with it, because that would mean that the rainbow still stands a chance to win.
Oh yeah.
And
in the original, the rainbow has already lost.
Right. It says it won. It literally says it won. And so and it says nothing about beauty. So we decided to use to win something over. would mean something different in English, but what it means here is that it beat out so it was bluer. It's not that it was more
Surpassed.
beautiful. It
Yeah.
was bluer.
I think another good example, and that's a word that doesn't exist, but we used it. It's
Yeah.
Folksmother.
Oh, yeah.
Folksmother. Um, First, I had Folkmother as two separate words.
Okay.
Oh no, that's an old. Oh no, that's here.
You
Yeah,
originally had Folksmother.
and then we decided Folksmother, and even though it doesn't, if you search for it in Google, probably
You're not
yeah,
likely to find Folksmother, yes.
but it's very possible to reintroduce or to introduce some words into the vocabulary because it's explained in the texts. From the context, it becomes really clear what it is, what she was.
Right. And some words, I just think you can't really replace them, right? It's
No.
like with Burg or something.
Mhm.
You kind of have to give the original. That would be almost like calling Freia's text the text or
Yeah,
something.
yeah. It's always a dilemma. Do I keep the original word or do I use a word that is more modern? And sometimes it's better to use the original word, especially with proper names. And sometimes it's nicer to translate it. For example, sturar, it's hard to pronounce, and it's also not easy to understand. And if you say steersman, it's in the English dictionaries.
Right. It means the same thing. So.
Yeah, and in that case, I chose steersman. I could also have decided to use the original word and then in a footnote explain once.
Right. I believe didn't the Romans have a tribe of people they called the Sturi?
Sturi. I think it's in a footnote.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes we transcribe the word because it is explained in the original. For example, here, Leetza. Leetza, that is the healer.
Right. Yeah, we actually chose Leetza for that one, even though there is the English word leech.
Oh, but what does that mean then?
It means the same thing. Leech? So a leech is an old word for a doctor.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know.
But it's also the word for a blood-sucking worm-like thing.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether Leetza is that, right? So because in Dutch it's I don't know what it is in Dutch. In German it's Blutegel.
Bloedzuiger.
Bloedzuiger.
Bloodsucker, literally.
Bloodsucker, yeah, that's a good name for it. So we use the word leech in English, but this Leetza doesn't have anything to do with sucking blood. So I think it's a good idea to leave it as is. But it's another thing that we could discuss. This wasn't in his notes, I don't think, but it's certainly
No, it's an example of sometimes you keep the original word even though it doesn't exist because it is already explained.
I'd be interested also to hear what people have to say about that one, for example, in the forum. If they go to the forum and address this word Leetza, maybe we can start a thread or something and see if some people want to give their own opinion about whether it should be leech or original Leetza.
Well, at the moment, I'm very busy with designing the 5th edition.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that was our next topic of discussion.
Yeah. Let's talk about that.
Okay, I'll close this. Let's go to the book file. And I'll give a presentation mode.
You showed me the cover of the 5th edition, or you showed me your idea for the cover of the 5th edition.
I'll show that too. Well, I'll quickly go through a few pages. This is only design. It's not final yet.
Mm-hmm.
But you'll see, well, the forward is still the same. You need to do some adaptation. So I will include a few pages, but not all of them, like in the other, like in the deluxe edition. And then the pages will be like this, with on one side the transcription. It's no longer a transliteration, but a transcription in the Freia's font, Freia's Standschrift font. It's also an idea I have for the edition title, the Standschrift edition.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not sure yet.
Okay, I get it.
And then,
So inside we'll have the Stanskrift using the font.
Yeah, and also the notes will be on the end of the chapter and not below every page.
Okay. So not footnotes. You'll have endnotes
at the end of the
chapter.
chapter. I thought it was better for design.
Okay. And so really people are going to be able to not only understand the Freya's language, but actually be able to read the original Freya's script after reading this book.
Yeah, and what I like better is that you have proper paragraphs. Because with the line-for-line design that we had earlier, you always had short blocks.
And we always had to decide where to put a comma or if it's to leave one out for
in a real text like here, some paragraphs are really short, like in the beginning here, and then some paragraphs are longer. And if you have all these small blocks, it's all small blocks, and it doesn't read as nicely as when it's designed like this.
Yeah, this one is more made for really just for really reading the text. So the other design was very, very helpful for people like me who really wanted to learn the Freyas.
Yeah.
And if anybody is a translator out there, they know that in modern translation software, you usually have a text presented line by line. So I was used to that, but this is much more natural for someone who really wants to read and understand the Oera Linda as a text.
Yeah, I'll quickly show the old design from the.
That's the cover of the old book there.
Yeah, we had it like this.
Yeah, so you had a line of text and then a line of Freyas, which, it's much closer visually to the English. So it's got its advantages, obviously.
Yeah.
And you don't have to be able to read the Stanskrift in order to read it. But so if you have one of the old ones and then you get the new one, then you've got really an excellent reference library.
You'll get a whole new reading experience.
Yeah.
I think for myself also, reading this version, and I did make the page and the line numbers within the transcription in normal script, so it's easier to distinguish.
But we didn't include the actual photocopies of every page of the manuscript in this one.
No, I will include a few, but not all of them. No, and there will be links to the wiki and to the forum.
Right. Yeah, all that stuff is findable in the wiki and the forum and in older versions of the book. So great stuff.
That is a lot of work, and I'm really in this creative mode.
Yeah.
And hardly able to answer emails or to do other things.
And have you got something lined up for when do you think this is going to go to print?
I think we'll need a few weeks to go edit some things.
Yes.
The design for the cover is something, because I want it different from the first, from the earlier editions.
Yeah, it's much more sober.
Yeah, there's this classical book I have of the Frescarim, Tractatus Alvini. This is from the 50s, and I have something like this in mind. So there will
the 2 lions.
Yeah, I'll have 50 or 100 bound in imitation leather.
Okay.
Those will be more expensive, but
Just
the others,
special edition.
Yeah, the others, the content will be the same, but the other books will be like this. This is a very strong paper, which is it gives a very classical look, and then with gold printed the title and 1 image. And here they have the old weapon of Friesland with his 2 lions. Which is still used in West Friesland. Then they face
the coat of arms.
Yeah. Not weapon, coat of arms. And then what I have in mind is an image of this was, I think, a Rhea or Sibylla. Rhea is obviously close to Freya.
Right, we discussed that a few weeks ago. And she's always pictured with two lions,
Yeah,
which
often. And Freya is also often depicted with two cats carrying her wagon.
yeah. And then and the coat of arms of Friesland also features two lions, right? When
And
I was
there's and there's the fragment in the description of Freya.
that the lions, yeah, right.
Let me see if I have it here. Yeah.
Yeah, should be the second or third line.
Yeah. Under the force of her gaze, the lion would lie down at her feet, and the viper hold back its venom.
Right, and they use lions in all three, as a matter of fact, right? They talk about how Lyda could kill a lion with her bare hands. Finda couldn't kill a lion, but she was able to do something with the lion. Oh no, she could kill 10 lions, right? With using her
there's a
tricks.
short. We have to cut here. We have to end the conversation because my son, who is in kindergarten, I have to come and get him. He's not well. I just
running
heard.
out of time. Okay. Yeah, but lions apparently play a role in for all the sisters, and when with Freya.
Just to finish this off, perhaps I would like an image with lying or sitting lions.
The lying laying down
next to a stylized Freya.
Mm-hmm.
And we had this as an idea to use one of these images, but it doesn't have to be. It can be a new design as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then in a way that the lines will become gold and the background is dark Prussian blue.
Gold embossed. That's great. Okay, so just real quick then, we have to wrap this up, but next week we wanted to talk about some of the characters, some of the female characters in the Oera Linda. Everyone from Minerva to Adela to everyone in between.
Yeah. And I'm quickly paging through some of the word studies of verbs that we wanted to do, but people who are interested can look it up themselves. So then now we'll quit and we'll talk next week again.
Okay, then thanks a lot and have a good weekend, Jan.
Thank you, Bruce. The same.
Bye-bye.
Bye.